Good morning, everybody. I think we're pretty much going to try to keep everything on time here today, so good morning. I'm Dr. Carol Martin. I'm from the Rotary Club of Black River Falls, so I'm affiliated with Black River Memorial Hospital and work in the emergency room there. This workshop today has been titled, Has Rotary Lost Its Mojo? In this presentation, we're going to have a lively discussion with our plenary speaker, Greg Pod, about the current state of membership in Rotary. What have other organizations been doing to regain their mojo? What is Mojo, as we were joking about at the beginning? And what can we do to reverse our long-term decline in membership? We are planning to end at 10:20. If you have questions for our speakers, Greg would like you to ask the questions as we go and to contribute and to participate as much as possible. Please remember to shut off your cell phones. This is our first speaker of the day if you missed breakfast, so try to shut off your cell phones so that we don't have any unnecessary interruptions. So this is our presenter, Greg Pod. We did meet him last night during our dinner plenary session, so I'm going to give you an abbreviated version of his introduction. Greg is a CPA, member of the Rotary Club of Evergreen, Colorado. He has served Rotary in many, many functions at the local, district, and international levels. He is a current Rotary Foundation trustee, and Greg and his wife Pam have been married for 47 years. They have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. All members of Greg and Pam's family are Paul Harris Fellows, and of special note, Greg and Pam are both Arch C. Clump Society members. Please, warm welcome of applause for Greg.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I'm going to have to be kind of hanging around this microphone because we haven't been able to figure out how to use that microphone, so appreciate it very much. What I'd like to do is go through a series of slides, and if you have any questions, please raise your hand as we go, because I would like to address them as we have. As was mentioned, I'm a retired CPA, and so you can imagine I'm always kind of looking at numbers. So the first couple of slides that I'm going to present to you are a little bit disturbing, but they are the facts, and they are reality. So let's kind of go over. By the way, there's a couple of chairs right up here if you'd like to take some of those. We got a full house here. That's right. We got 2 here. Thank you very much. So let's take a look at what's happened to Rotary International membership. And again, these are just the facts. Quite frankly, I need to present the facts so that you understand the issues that we're going through right now. But you can see that our membership in our organization has had a very steady decline for the last 6 years in membership. Now we'll talk about why that's happening and what's going on with Rotary being relevant throughout the world. The other fact that I want to share with you is what is really going on in regard to our Rotary and our Rotaract clubs. These numbers will differ from what Taylor is telling you. Fortunately, I have access to some pretty accurate numbers, but you can see that our Rotary members is right about 1.1 million, and our Rotaract clubs are right about 164 million. When we first came out, we thought that we had 200,000 Rotaract clubs. I'm sorry? 164,000. Oh, okay. Yeah, members. I'm sorry. Sorry. I never was good with numbers. I will just tell you. So we thought we had about 200,000 Rotaractors. When we sent out the bills, we learned something different. Same thing happens in Rotary, quite frankly. You can see that our clubs have been pretty steady at about 11. And I think one of the most disturbing things that I see up here is the percentage of women in Rotary. This has been hanging around 24 to 26% for way, way, way too long. And we won't go into all the detail here or why this is happening, but I want to present another fact that I think is pretty disturbing to me. This is what happens to our Rotary membership. It has been very consistent of what happens. We start off at a particular number. We bring in 180,000 members around the world, and guess what? We lose 190,000 members out the door. The most disturbing number that I will share with you is that 20,000 number. Those are individuals that joined Rotary and left Rotary in the same year. Now that is very disturbing to me because that indicates something is happening. And I'll share that with you in just a second. I'm going to try to go through these slides as quickly as I can because I do want to open it up for questions in the limited time that we have. So if you kind of look at it from what's really happening, we bring in these 180,000 members into Rotary, 196 walk out the back door. One of the most disturbing facts that you will see is that 52% of all the members have been in Rotary less than 3 years. What's happening, it's happening in your club, it's happening in my club, it's happening in my districts, it's happening in my zones. They're coming in the front door and they're walking out the back door. Now, why is that happening? We'll try to look at that. So let's look at another statistic that I think is very interesting. And I don't want to go into the impact of this with Rotary, but it is very significant, this impact. You can see that the United States, Canada, and Caribbean have been decreasing over this period of time that you see since 2010, of 22% decrease in membership. You can see a lot of the other areas of the world have been fairly flat. Latin America has been flat. RIBI is basically Rotary in Ireland and Great Britain. You will see in Europe that we have been fairly flat. And also you will see that New Zealand and Australia have been very decreasing dramatically. But one of the areas that is happening right now is that Asia is exploding. We're absolutely adding more clubs and more members and more Rotaractors, and it's changing the dynamics of Rotary. Again, I don't want to get into the detail, but I will tell you that board members, trustees of Rotary are selected based upon the population of Rotary and where it is in the world. So if you think about what's happening just from a North American standpoint, you can see that our influence is going down. And the influence of areas in Asia are going up dramatically. Again, that changes our trustees, that changes our board of directors. And again, we won't go into many details. That could last a couple hours in itself. So let's think about the two choices that we really have in Rotary. Bless you. We basically have two choices that we can do. We can continue to do the same thing that we've always done. And I kind of like this slide that I will show you right now, and that is this crazy guy, and I wish he would have done his hair before he took his picture, but doing the same thing over and over again and thinking that we're going to get different results is what Albert Einstein called insanity. And I think that's what we have been doing for the past 15, 20 years in Rotary, doing the same old thing and thinking that we're going to get different results. The second choice that I think that we have is we can simply draw a line in the sand and say enough is enough. I quite frankly will tell you, and I will be first to tell you that I'm one of those individuals. We have gotten complacent. We have gotten to where it says it's okay. It's okay to be able to be a president of a Rotary Club, and as long as I have the same members that I had at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, I've done a good job. And I think we're going to have to take a little different approach to that. Because if we're ever going to grow, you have to realize that you're going to have people leaving your Rotary Club. We can tell statistically that you're going to lose about 10% of your Rotary Club. We know that through various different reasons. So if we're going to grow, you've got to be able to bring in more than 10% new members because of the attrition rate that you're going to have. So let's look at a couple of things that is happening. Paul Harris came out and he said something, the world is a changing place and we must be prepared to change with it. And that's what we need to change. We need to look at what's going on. Do I have all the answers to membership? I can promise you I don't. I don't, but we do in this room. So somebody that I just absolutely love to death is an individual named Michael McQueen. He's from Australia. I met him. He's a Rotarian. I met him many, many years ago. And he said one of the things that's happening out there in Rotary right now is that we have lost our momentum. And I think we have lost our momentum. We've been steadily going down as opposed to steadily going up. And I think that's something that we need to really take a look at as to why we lost our momentum. But I think we've lost something else that I would like to share with you. And I think that we have lost what I refer to as our Rotary Mojo. And you may want to say, well, what is that? What is Rotary Mojo? And I will give you a definition of that, and it's pretty simple. Rotary Mojo is a quality that attracts people to you and makes you successful and full of energy. A good example was that individual Taylor that spoke at that last breakout. She definitely brought a lot of energy to our organization. That's exactly the kind of people that we ought to be attracting to Rotary. So let's look at an organization that lost its mojo and never got it back. And that was Kodak. How many of you in here remember Kodak Moments? You remember that? Oh yeah, golly, are we all old? Anyway. But yeah, Kodak Moments was a company that was, everybody talked about Kodak. You know, let's take a Kodak. You know, that was a photo, and that's the way that it was done. What was interesting about Kodak is they had made a decision that in the 1980s, they concluded that digital photo was not the future of photos. Really. I would have hated to have been on the board when they made that decision. Because I'll give you a little statistic that I think is kind of interesting. By the way, over 1 trillion photos were taken on phones last year. You know, you think about it, Kodak really lost their mojo. And quite frankly, they never got it back. In fact, what is interesting about them is that they declared bankruptcy, which is hard to believe, in January of 2012. Now let's talk about a company, and I believe Rotary is a company. It's an organization of people doing amazing things throughout the world. But let's talk about an organization that lost its mojo and they got it back. Now, not all of you are going to agree this, and I promise you my wife is not going to agree this, but the company that I'm aware of that lost its mojo and got it back is a company that truly, truly takes clean water and ruins it. And the name of that company is Starbucks. I told you not all of you would agree with that one, okay? Some of you, like my wife, who is in the room, will always have her Starbucks. But Starbucks is a company that truly lost its mojo and got it back. And I want to share with you a story that many of you may not have known. Back in October of 2026, Starbucks lost 80% of its value. They almost went bankrupt. And all of a sudden, there was this individual that came into the company, and in fact, he came back to the company. He returned because he was very instrumental in this, and that was Howard Schultz. And he made a comment that I want everyone to be able to understand and appreciate. Just as we created the problem, we will have to fix it. And I think that's what we need to do in Rotary. We created it. And I'm not bad-mouthing anything. I love this organization as much as you. But we did create this membership issue, and we got to fix it. We've got to fix it if we're going to be relevant in the future. So let's look at what Mr. Schultz said when he came back to Rotary. He said we lost sight of a couple of things. The first thing that we lost sight of is our culture. The second thing was our values. And the third thing was what mattered most to this company of Starbucks. And you'll see where I relate Starbucks to Rotary in just a second. First of all, the culture is pretty simple. If we're going to get back our mojo, we've got to be able to be proud members of Rotary. Example, I have a presentation that I absolutely love to do, and I wish I could have done it here. It's called The Power of Your Rotary Pin. And how many Rotarians do you know that wear their Rotary pin each and every day? Think about that. And I think that we got to bring back a culture of being proud members of this organization. I will tell you that I wear my Rotary pin, and everywhere I go, people say, "What's that pin?" I'll be sitting on an airplane and somebody will say, "What's that pin?" And that gives me the opportunity to be able to describe this absolutely phenomenal organization that Taylor talked about in the last session. So I think we've got to talk about our culture and bringing back that being proud to be a Rotarian. It absolutely disturbs me horribly when I have an individual in my Rotary Club, and thank God they haven't impeached me because I don't attend it very often because of my travels. But you know, somebody in the club will say, "You know, I'm leaving Rotary." And I said, "Well, why are you leaving Rotary?" He says, "Well, I don't like the eggs they're serving now." Really? Really? Or how many of you ever been a president of a Rotary Club and you had to change the location of your Rotary Club? "Oh, I'm not going down the street." Really? And my only comment to that is they don't know what they don't know about Rotary. Because if you knew what this organization would do, you wouldn't worry about the food you're being served, and you wouldn't worry about the locations that you're eating. So another thing that I think is actually important is our values. We probably have some of the best values that any organization could ever have. You think about it, we're diversified. I was sitting next to Gordon McAnally, and he says, "Greg, what do you think about the diversity of this organization?" Because we've talked about DEI, as you can imagine, as a trustee and at a board level. And I said, "I have to tell you, Gordon, I am extremely proud that we belong to what I consider the most diversified international service organization in the world." And we are. We certainly have high integrity. We have incredible leadership. We have wonderful fellowship, and we serve other people who are less fortunate than us. I think we have some of the best values of any organization that you could ever do. The last but not least that Howard Schultz said was very, very important, and that is he talked about the most important thing that mattered. And he came out and made a comment, and Taylor referred to this in her presentation. But in Starbucks, they called it customer experience. And I think there's a statement that I saw that Howard Schultz made when I was preparing for this, that he said, "We don't serve coffee, we serve people." And I think in Rotary, we need to learn that we don't serve the world, but we serve people. We truly, truly do. And again, if you think about it, I could never drink a Starbucks coffee, but I do enjoy the experience. Because how many times do you go into a Starbucks and the first thing you hear is, "Welcome to Starbucks"? That's the first thing that comes out. Welcome to Starbucks. So I think one of the things that we really need to look at is why in the world are Rotary members leaving? Why do they come in and they leave? And I can tell you that Rotary International has spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars with outside consultants to try to understand why this organization that we belong to, with all the great culture, the great values that we have, why are they leaving? And it's one thing, and Taylor again mentioned this, it's the club experience and the culture. Unmet expectations, something that we cannot control, but we can control in some extent, is financial and time commitments. We need to be more flexible in what we're doing. Some people are doing that. So one of the things that, and again, I'm not going to spend too much on this particular slide, but the club experience matters most when you think about it. Members are confident in their leaders of their club. They enjoy the meetings. They look for opportunities to make a difference, and they're comfortable with each other, and they make meaningful friendships. And I think that's one of the things that we have to be very, very careful of, is that when we bring an individual into Rotary, that we recognize what that experience is. And it's extremely important that we understand our members. So if we're going to get back to our mojo, we've got to really look at these particular factors. I think Rotary leaders, and when I talk about Rotary leaders, Rotary is not done in Evanston. And in all due respect, it's not done at the club, at the district level. Rotary is done at the club level. And so when I talk about leaders, I a lot of times talk about Rotary presidents. And Rotary presidents really need to know their Rotary member skill sets. How do they get that? You talk to the members. And one of the things that I had an individual, in fact, she's up and she is on the financial staff of Rotary International. And she is absolutely one of the most intelligent CPAs I've ever worked with. And she is serving you and she's serving me on our Rotary International finance staff. And she came up to me and she said, you know, Greg, next year I'm going to be president of my Rotary Club. How do I be a good president? And one of the first things that I told her is, I said, for crying out loud, sit down with each one of your members of your club and get to know what their skill sets is. Know where those members want to share. How do they want to serve in the community? Get them involved early. Whatever you do, get them involved earlier. You have to admit that if only thing that you got out of your Rotary Club was Rotary chicken, you'd probably leave pretty quickly. If all they came were for meals, they would never stay. And encourage them and allow them to be able to serve. And I think that is, quite frankly, pretty simple if you look at that. But do our Rotary clubs and our presidents really do that? And I will just get off on a tangent for a second. I think this is something that we ought to be working on at PETS. And I'm looking at a district governor nominee-elect coming up. But this is something that presidents have got to be able to do, is learn how to run and understand how to serve the people that they have in their Rotary Club so that those people can serve our world. And I think that's what I would refer to as our customer experience. What if you can't change club experience? And that is happening sometimes. You know, I will give you a statement that I read not long ago, that it is easier to give birth than it is to raise from the dead. You have to admit that some of your Rotary clubs are not changeable. They've got their personalities, they've got their people that have been around. Charlie's been sitting at the same table for 47 years. Yeah. Charlie's not going to move. He's not going to sit with anybody else. And that's the experience that particular club has. Every club has a personality. And so one of the things that I will also tell you that our wonderful people that have done surveys, that if you want to grow Rotary in the future, you don't worry about the existing clubs that are trying to fix them. You start new clubs. You start new clubs with new personalities, new people that are coming in and not looking at how we used to do things, but how we can do things in the future. And that's really what we really have got to take a look at. And so I think one of the things that I will always share with you is form a new club. Form these new clubs so that they can go out and bring excitement and have a different personality of how to do Rotary. So I'll give you another thing that I will share with you that is pretty critical. We have not been doing a very good job in the United States. You can see during the 22-23 year, we formed very few new clubs in the United States. But if you go and look at the areas that are growing in Rotary, how are they doing it? And Taylor made a comment to this, is form new Rotary clubs and have them interact with younger people. And that's exactly what is happening out there. These are all the different types of new clubs that are out there today. And a lot of us are not aware of those particular clubs. You know, there's a club that I would like to share with you out of Dallas, Texas. And they did something that I thought was very, very interesting. One day they had a group of people that said, we would like to form an organization. They didn't call it a club. Young people don't like the word club, quite frankly. And they want to form an organization. So they brought some people into a room and they said, if you had an organization that was going to serve your community and the world, what would it look like? And they had a whiteboard. And they wrote up on their whiteboard exactly what it would look like. That particular whiteboard became the bylaws of that Rotary Club. And that Rotary Club started off at 115 members. They're up to 130 members right now. And it's amazing what happened because they had buy-in from the very start of what the club was going to look like and how it was going to function. And it's been an amazing club that has done that. So I would encourage you to look at these new models of clubs and think about forming new clubs. Is it a lot of work? Yeah, it's a lot of work. I've done it before. And it's hard to put them together, and it takes leadership. But I think this is the way that we're going to grow Rotary in the future. Membership leads. This is another thing that really is disturbing to me. One of the programs that Rotary International brought out is what is called membership leads. And what that is individuals around the world that are going onto Rotary website and they're telling Rotary, I'm interested in joining Rotary. We have about 20,000 leads that come in every year. Now this is something else that is interesting. 61% of all those leads are individuals under the age of 40. That's exactly the kind of person that we ought to be bringing into Rotary. 35% are female. This is very disturbing. 66 are followed up by the district, which is good. But what's happening is getting down to the club level, and they're only getting a 10.6% conversion rate. What I'm trying to say right here is that we have all of these young people, a lot of them are female, they're under the age of 40, they're saying that they want to join Rotary, and the clubs don't follow up on it. What a shame. What an absolutely incredible shame. And this is something that I think Rotary clubs are going to have to start looking at, that at of course the districts have got to be doing a better job, but the clubs have got to be substantially better at following up on these leads of individuals that are interested in joining our clubs, but we never follow up on them. Pretty sad. A couple more slides. Yeah, I had to say really. I truly believe that Rotary has not lost its mojo. I really, truly believe that. But we do need to get it done, and we do need to make adjustments to how we operate Rotary, how we do Rotary in the future by starting new clubs and following certainly up on these particular leads. Anyway, I'd like to leave it right now. I've got a couple of more minutes, but I would love to lead it up to questions or comments that anybody would have, or any suggestions that you've seen that have been able to expand Rotary throughout the world. Yes, ma'am.
You just said about do those people that are interested come into Rotary International to a certain source, or because I don't realize I don't think our club has any of that.
Where these leads are coming into is in regard to these individuals are going onto the Rotary International website, and they will say, I have an interest in joining Rotary.
Where does it go from there?
From there, it goes to the district, and from the district, it should go down to the club, and the club doesn't follow up. It should go to the club. Not all districts, obviously, in the world are following up on the leads. But you think about it, 20,000 people are saying, I have an interest in joining you, we don't follow up on it? That is
to match the number of members that we're losing every year.
Exactly, that's the net. I saw another hand up over here. Yes, ma'am.
I was a member of District 6270's membership committee. We got those down, those membership requests and such, and our membership committee went through them and we assigned them to the assistant governor in that club area that they were interested in.
Okay?
So the assistant governor was supposed to reach out and say, hey, this club would fit your needs because you can only meet on Tuesday, and then reach out to the president that they've got an interested member. So that was kind of the process that we were following in 6270 to find the right club for them to join, based on what they put in, what days, evenings, lunch, etc.
Yeah.
They were looking for.
And did that process work?
I think we, not as well as we wanted, but we did get some memberships.
Well, and I, you think about it, there are people that like to meet in the morning, there are people that like to lead at lunch, and there are people that like to lead at, or meet at dinner. So I think you do have to match up the individual, and I think assistant governors is probably a great way to do it. Yeah.
So I can follow up as one of the nice things that the district membership chair has done this year is augment that process a little bit, because we didn't get a very good conversion rate.
Okay.
And our conversion rate is increasing because the person that we're passing it off to, we don't just say, hey, club president, here's somebody that's interested. We still stay engaged until they start trying to get involved. So it's not so much, here, it's your ball. It's still much more of a collaborative effort to get that conversion rate going.
Oh, that's good. Well, you think about it, you've got to be consistent with it, and you've got to be very aware that you got to follow up on it. It's like a brand new customer. I saw a hand up here, and then I'll come back over here. Yes, sir.
I have another question, but related to that. I'm in sales, and I think the problems at RI, a lead has to go to a salesperson and be sold. And you mentioned it. We're going through processes, and the lead gets lost. I think that's the fundamental problem.
That's exactly right.
You mentioned DEI, and you're in a 50-50 state. What is the conversation at the RI director level or RI regarding DEI and how we can possibly adjust it? Because what I'm seeing, not everyone in our district agrees with that, is that we're losing, especially some conservative members, because of the whole emphasis on DEI, and that it's become, nationally it's become basically a political issue in this presidential election.
You're exactly right. I believe so much in DEI. I really do. We should be the most, in fact, the conversation I had with Gordon was very simple. I said, Gordon, it's very simple. I have to tell you, I will invite anybody into my club. I don't care, I'm not going to go through all the comments, but I would invite anybody that wants to take the time to serve others. I don't care. I don't care what you are. I don't care how you believe. It doesn't matter to me. I'm interested in having people that will serve others. But you're exactly right. It's become very political. And that's the sad thing about it. And you're correct. We have lost a lot of members as a result of that concept of DEI. I think the concept is there, but it's the political connection with that particular word. And I'm not...
I agree in the sense, if we could get rid of the word, the concept is what we're all in favor of.
Yeah, we don't need to go into that one real quick. I'll come back to you here, and then I'll come back to you. Yes, sir.
Okay, so our club,
Oh.
at the risk of being chastised, I guess, our club is very limited as to who we let in. We have an application process, you have to be invited, and we almost can't pick our members from the community. We want them involved, we want quality over quantity. It's not about the numbers, it's about who's going to stay engaged, who's going to be involved, who's going to go back to quality, who wants to be there. We don't want the members that are in it just to say, hey, we're Rotary.
Yeah.
We want people on the deep process.
Yeah.
I love how it's work. That's our goals, I guess.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. We should always be looking for quality as opposed to quantity. And I think part of our problem is that we were looking for quantity, and people were being brought in. They go, well, hey, it's great being part of Rotary. What do you people do? Oh, I got to pay? You know, and all of a sudden they're out the door. Oh, what good does that do? So, yes, sir, you had a comment.
As the membership chair for our district, we've also saw that whole going in the front door, going out the back. So how we sort of adjusted with things is that we actually screen those applicants from the membership committee, and then we assign them to DGs as a mentor.
Yeah.
And then as a mentor, then they go to a club, and we try to work with the clubs to also create a mentoring program with that new person. And the thing is, just because you live in an area doesn't mean that that member is going to fit that club. And that's a very big point, because it's like some clubs are, let's say, checkbook club, okay? And this young person's coming to the club, they want to do things, and the club is like, you're not going to tell us how we're going to do our fundraising.
Yeah.
You aren't going to tell us how we're going to be doing our whatever. And it's like, ooh, out the back door they're going to go. So you've got to make sure that that member finds the opportunities for growth in every club you submit them to. And if a club has a problem with that, me as the membership chair, talk to me. We'll do a club evaluation and look at your club retrospectively to see how we can change those dynamics within your club, that it would make you the dynamic club that you probably once were and would like to become again.
You know, I appreciate your comments. One of the things that I will say is we in North America do not manage what I call expectations properly. The club had expectations of the member, i.e. you're going to do this, you're going to pay the dues, blah, blah, blah. But this prospective member also has expectations of what they're joining. And if those expectations are not the same, guess what's going to happen? They're going to leave. You know, a very good friend of mine, who I served on the board with, I'm a trustee with right now, is past President Holger Knacht from Germany. And I love him to death. And Holger looked at me and he says, you guys in America are crazy. I said, well, yeah, we do have some things going on that are kind of crazy. And he says, it's the way you bring in members. I said, what are you talking about? He says, in Germany, our turnover rate is dramatically low. It's very, very low, almost non-existent. I said, what are you talking about? He says, we do something that I don't know how many people in the world do. You cannot be part of our Rotary Club, and you will not be invited to join our Rotary Club until you are part of it for 6 months. You're going to attend meetings, you're going to do all this, you're going to do all our club projects, but you will not be brought in as a member for at least 6 months. Because we want to make sure that what your expectations are what our expectations are. And if it doesn't fit, go on to another club. And I thought about that, I says, wow, in North America, we need to spend a lot more front-end time with these prospective members, not just bring them in the front door and expect them to adjust to what we're doing. I think it's a very simple process, I really do. But Holger Knacht in Germany's really got something that we can learn from. Yes, sir.
I'm in a club that is too large for the president to talk to all the members. We have over 400 members.
Yeah, hard to manage.
Two things that I think help. One is invite that prospective member not to a weekly meeting where he has maybe 10 or 15 minutes to talk to other Rotarians before the speaker. Invite him to a service project, because that's what we're all about.
Yeah.
Second one is that my role within the club, if we have a prospective member, is to sit with that member and tell them there are 6 other clubs in Madison. Let's go to one of the other clubs before you make up your mind.
Sure.
If you're a younger member, maybe the after hours club is a better fit. Maybe the breakfast is a better fit. And I
Better eggs.
ask them, you know, let's do this. Let's go to another meeting. Ours is very, very scheduled, very, very scripted. other ones have happy dogs. It's just a different personality. And it matches your Germany example of not getting to join until they have a match.
Yeah, and again, every club has a personality. My Rotary Club needs to go on decaf coffee. My wife is back there, they're crazy. Why do I like them? Because I'm in these serious meetings all the time with Rotary, with a crazy tie on, and it gives me great joy to sit in the back of the room and watch the craziest stuff I've ever seen in my life. And they ask me, they say, would Rotary accept this club? I said, probably not, but you know, you're fun. And they are a hoot. But we do great projects, both internationally, locally. It's a great club, but it may not fit with what your personality is. And you're exactly right. Go out and taste the different kinds of clubs and personalities out there and make sure that the fit's there. That's a simple process. Yes, sir.
I would like to go back to the comment on diversity and share how we're dealing with that in 6220. My background is advertising and marketing. The problem with diversity, equity, inclusion is the positioning and the marketing. People are not reading the Rotary International statement, which really comes down to the four-way test. It's being nice to people. So what we're doing in 6220 is not calling it diversity, equity, inclusion, which simply evokes the negative political connotation from a third of our members. We're calling it a cultural appreciation outreach. And we're working to restore civility to our civic discourse by modeling in Rotary how to take on things that aren't controversial and create an environment where we can have important discussions with respect. And instead of going through the list of all of the categories that we need to address, we're starting with American Indians. And we're inviting the tribes from all of the Rotary clubs throughout our district on land that was taken from Native Americans, and having them come and share with us what we can do together to build goodwill and better friendship. There has been no pushback. The response is extremely positive. There's no controversy because we positioned it in a careful, non-offensive manner. When we're finished with Native Americans, our plan is to invite Hispanics and Southeast Asians, members of the Black community, and then we can get into inviting people who are exceedingly underrepresented in Rotary, like people with different identifications and orientations. But I believe by modeling civility, Rotary can play a very important role in tackling controversial issues. And if you're suffering from acute boredom, at 2 p.m. this afternoon, I invite you to join a session on cultural appreciation that will be moderated by a very nice guy.
You know, that sounded like a district governor-elect, but anyway, we'll go on. Yes, sir.
I 100% agree with that, and I hope 6220 and RI get together because that's what we got to hear from RI.
I'll be quiet on that one. Be aware that Rotary's done at the club level, never at RI level.
Well, but DEI came from RI.
No question about that one. I got that one. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you talked about time and money, right, as being considerations why people left. And I'm familiar with quite a few people that leave Rotary after their corporate membership is then not, they go to retirement and the dues are just more, and yet they have more time to serve, and yet they don't continue. My sister's one of them, doesn't continue Rotary because it's expensive for them. They still have time to really to contribute, but the dues are more than they can handle. So is that an untapped market that we have all these people that were in Rotary that were contributing maybe just checkbook-wise, but now they're moving into retirement age where they have a lot of time for service, but maybe not have the funds to do that. How can we tap into that?
You know, you're bringing up, you're in sales. Sometimes your customers will change. And why do we not take that list of terminated members and go back to those members and say, what's changed in your life? What can we do to be able to help you be a part of Rotary? There's ways to make Rotary a lot cheaper. If you think about it, it's not the dues that's expensive, it's the meals. That's the expensive part of joining Rotary. Dues are what, $40, $50 a year or something? I mean, that's not going to break too many people, but they're higher than that, okay. Shows you how connected I am.
40 or 50 a quarter.
What's that?
They're 40 or 50 a quarter.
40 or 50 a quarter. Well, okay, whatever. But the point is, I think there's an untapped market out there that we could go back to members where their life has changed. They're no longer having their membership fees paid by their corporation. So they're in a retirement mode. They got time, but they can do serve. Nothing wrong with that. And that's why the club models out there are models of clubs out there that they do service. They don't do meals at all. But you're part of a club that you still continue to do service. I think there's millions, and I do mean millions of people out there that could come back to our Rotary clubs. And I think that's an untapped resource. I do. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a newer member under the age of 30, and I just wanted to urge clubs at every level to really focus on their public image. I knew Rotary existed, but it always looked like a group that I wasn't, it didn't feel non-biased or neutral to me. It felt like there was a mission beyond the mission that they weren't talking about.
Yep.
So the four-way test is a great example. I know that that's a goal. It's been really great being here and hearing all of the efforts to make it more diverse, and I've learned a lot more about the mission of just helping people. But I think that has gotten lost in communication over time. I can tell you my generation of people aren't talking about Rotary, and if they are, it's always thinking that there's something else behind it that they can't see. That might not make sense, but.
It does make sense, and thank you. You are extremely welcome to Rotary, and thank you for being part of our organization. I mean that, yeah. You know, last night after I finished my presentation, I had a youth exchange, and she says, "Hi, I want to be like you." And I said, "You better look out what you ask for." And what she was saying, she says, "I want to serve people." And I said, "You're exactly what we're looking for in Rotary. Exactly what we're looking for." And so those are the kind of encouragement that we need to do. We need to get rid of all this stuff. And we just need to learn that we're out there, we're all together, we're a family, we are a family, and we should be out there serving, and everybody should be allowed to be part of our organization. Yeah, Don, comment.
Yeah, one of the things about...
You sound like a district governor, for God's sake. Jesus.
You know, I still have to do a little bit of this stuff, but one of the things that's talking about the revolving door kind of situation, one of the nice things that's now available within this zone is we get individual reports of the last 3 years of attrition rates. And when my wife was a Rotary Club president back in 2005-06, they were told you lose 10% a year because of transfers, death, or whatever. But that was just kind of a number that we had. Now, because we can do at a club level, we know specifically where the club's at. So, across the district, 15% was the attrition rate. Now, we had some clubs that unfortunately were 20 and greater. So we know that there's some issues there. But then the club leaders can deal with that information. So with what measured matters.
It does. Yeah, you can't manage something that you don't measure. You gotcha. All right, one last question, because I'm getting the hook right here. Yes, ma'am.
One quick thing, as members, there's Rotary Central. All of you have clubs. Please update your Rotary Central for the activities that you do, for what you're doing in your community, information that goes to the Rotary Central. All of that information goes up to RI, which also helps RI get people like Bill Gates and stuff to contribute, because those people who want to be major contributors to RI are looking for that information in order for them to say, what does Rotary do? And Rotary doesn't know what the club in some little city in Wisconsin is doing as a bigger thing, because they're not filling out all the great things that they are doing. You and your club know what you're doing in your community, but we need to communicate that to a higher authority and higher things. How many of you have done global grants and never put them on the Rotary Showcase? These are all things that help me as a membership chair to find why I need to put a new member in your club.
Appreciate that. Speaking of Rotary Club Central, I will let you know, only 28% of all the clubs in the Rotary world use Rotary Club Central, which is a huge problem. I will tell you right now, it's undergoing right now, Rotary Club Central is going to be blown up, and it's going to be redesigned in a very easy way for clubs to be able to do it. I would agree with you. That's something to be done. Anyway, I'm all done. Thank you. Best of luck to you.